Okay, hey team. Welcome in. Welcome back. Witch Thinker here. Somebody posted on Reddit last night a spread and then was like, interpretations please. And what often happens with a Celtic cross spread is that I go overboard. What I do is I kind of glance at their question and then I interpret the spread. So that's a whole bunch of text. And then I will finally look at like their flavor text or what their interpretation was, and then I'll add an addenda. And then if I'm interested or if I think it's helpful or if I want to, I'll then do permutations, which is where I rearrange all the cards and I give like another reading from that perspective. Meanwhile, simultaneously on the Reddit, recently someone was asking about court cards and I gave a response that people seem to really like. So now I'm starting to like share how I read tarot because I don't really do readings for other people, and you'll see why. It's because every time I pick up a card, I like exhaustively I like wring everything out of it, and that's too tiring for my voice. And I believe the like whole point of learning this type of thing is that, and like trying to read for other people, is that you get so sick of like explaining what it is that you immediately get to the point. Like you get so sick of yourself and so tired that you immediately become like super succinct. And I don't know if that will happen because I enjoy breaking down a card and like what it is and what it means. But anyway, this is going to be my example of like how and why all of that comes together. So we were talking about court cards. I'm trying to put stuff up. It's hard to describe how I read a card without having a reference that people can see it in action, but without me just saying like this is how I read it in that context. Like here's going to be some context. And every time I'm reading my own cards, I'm just reading the cards. I'm not setting up the laptop and the tripod and the camera and the trying to figure out what kind of lighting system and can you see the cards and can you hear me clearly. So that's what this is going to be. Just all of it at once. Thank you to the Reddit user who agreed to let me do this. We're going to post it anonymously. I don't know anything about them except what I'm going to show you that I wrote down from the question. I haven't looked at their interpretation at all. I think I looked at like, I thought this was a positive card, but I got kind of lost here and I was like, let me move in. And then as allow me, just jump in. And then as well, there's so many court cards in this spread that it's like really aligned with what I'm trying to like share and stay on topic of like making those videos for myself. Okie dokie. So I'll give you the overview of how this will go so you can plan accordingly and like get a snack. And then we're going to go over the question and then I'm going to get into it. At the very end, if I still have energy and like want to do it, my voice doesn't hurt too much, and if I remember, I would like to pull the spread with the oracle cards as if I was doing a spread here, um, and then interpret like do what I would do at the end with oracle cards because I do like a permutation of that as well. And you will, if you like are here because of Reddit and you've seen my comments before, or you'll see probably in this reading that I'm a very like gentle, nice, self-apologetic, like how can this not be your problem or your fault kind of reader, and that works for me. My philosophy for that, my reasoning for that is like the critical message of like, what are you doing? You need to get up and do this. That's present. You don't need to go searching for that message. That's there. You turn around any corner in your mind and that message is there. So like, why would it need to be here? To get around that, if like I work with like guides and the more spiritual side of tarot. So if you're here secularly, please just smile and nod and have your little laugh to yourself that I don't know what I'm talking about and that I'm out to lunch. That's fine. I'm Delulu, I know. But what I'll sometimes do if I feel like, well, I read that way too nicely and I'm like fooling myself, I'm being delusional, it's going to come back to bite me. What I'll do is I'll turn away from the cards and I'll close my eyes and I'll start to like shake my body a little bit as if someone was shaking me by the shoulders. And I'll ask like, okay, guides, okay, spirit team, what's like what do you want to shake me by the shoulders and tell me because I'm not getting it. And usually it is a message of like be nicer to yourself, love yourself, it's gonna be fine, that kind of thing. So that's one method. In the other method is before you like disassemble the Celtic cross and like turn it into the different readings that we're gonna do, if you suspect you're being a little too nice, I can come through with like the critical, this is what the people on Reddit would tell me, because all the time when I'm doing an interpretation and I'm going to do it my way using my method that I've developed, which is what this is, I will get a lot of that's not what that card means. I've never heard of that card meaning that. And then I explain my whole reasoning for like why it means that to me, which is what this is going to be. So if I think that I'm being too lenient, I will come through with like the classic meanings, where everything is like kind of little bit worse, a little bit harsher. So with that being said, let's get started with the question from the Reddit user. So they posted this spread and it said, I'm looking for an interpretation. I've been working on myself, mind, spirit, and body, but it wasn't really body. They said, and my work life. And I'm feeling down. What's it all for? Trying not to sink into nihilism. The world is scary, but I'm hopeful sometimes for the future, both for myself and for the world. Believe in love, believe in light, believe that people are good, and think that like I've got a purpose. There's a reason for me being here. And yet, life is hard. So the question was what my purpose is, which is a really big question, and is there more I have to offer? So right away, just as a person reading this, I would be like, so the world is hard and you're hitting a wall, and you're thinking that the answer is that there's something more for you to give, and that will be like a solace or a balm. So right away I would be like, have you considered the thing to develop is like a rest practice? Because body was not really included. You've done mental work, you've done spiritual work, you've done work. Have you connected with your body? Do you daydream? Do you dream? Do you rest? Do you nap? Do you relax? So that would be my first like, excuse me, sir, when's the last time you had some whimsy, etc. And even they said it was the first time they pulled out their deck in a long time. So whimsy, strike one for whimsy, okay? And then the other thing that I would just kind of like in my mind kind of start breaking down this question and see that like, so this is the big question, this is the more specific question. In this feeling down, I've done all this work, but like what's the point? What's it for? Like who am I serving? What purpose am I serving? Because everything is shit, obviously, and it doesn't look very hopeful, even if we all individually and collectively have hope, but like it doesn't look great. So the big question is like what my purpose is, or like what's the point of me being here if it's so hard? And the specific question is there more I have to offer? So the specific question to me is there more I can do to feel like I'm living a purpose, developing a purpose, integrating into the society and the world that I want to see? And again, I would come back to, is the world that you want to see include people that are never resting, relaxing, daydreaming? If it does include those people, when's the last time you did it? So I'm going to try and steer away from the bias of that being kind of like a central answer to this, is that like you can put down the weight of the world and you can focus on like the here and the now and like what would bring you joy. Because if you're trying to get into a world that's joyful and has love and light, then like you got to live that as well. And if you never give yourself permission to live that until everyone can have it, like we're not going to get there, bestie. You know what I mean? So I'm going to try and veer away from the bias that I have about that's what this is right now. And we're going to go through the whole reading. And hopefully you're going to see how like the message can like change and give different facets, so that in the end it's like a very full, thorough reading, which means I also don't do it very often because it takes a lot it takes a lot of processing power, and it's a lot of messages, and it's very holistic, so you want to chew on it for a little while. So breaking down this question more, what my purpose is there more I have to offer? So it looks like you're in a state of perpetual improvement, doing, and serving, because you're looking for more to offer and someone to offer it to. And so I'm also going to look at this word have. It's like, do you have to offer it? Is there this onus of should, and like I should be serving, I should be sharing, I should be participating in that way? So I'm going to take the piss and say that's part of why have was used. But I know that you mean like, do I have more that I have to offer? Do I have more that I have within to bring to the table of the future and the life that I'm trying to live? And like I want it, yes, life gets hard, but I don't want to just throw it all out and be like it was all worth nothing. You want to feel good, right? And then this state of perpetual improvement and the idea of more, and like you're very active, and it's like what more can I do? And so this is where the original thought for like, have you tried more daydreaming? Have you tried more downtime? Have you tried relaxing? Have you tried living in the end state of the place you want to be in? Like as much as your ability when you're towing the line of nihilism, you know? Okay, so that's the question, and how I would like initially be like, oh, that's what I think about how you phrased your question and the approach you're coming like to a space to want a second interpretation specifically. And then I would like get into it. So we're going to go through the Celtic cross the way I do it. And I'm going to, as you'll see, I'm going to explain prolifically. Then we're going to do permutation 1, and I learned these permutations from Mary Kay Greer's Tarot for Yourself, which is like kind of a dense book. At the end, she teaches you the Celtic cross, and then she teaches you all these gold. And so all of these, except for the last one and the one with the oracle cards, I learned from the Celtic cross. And the last two that we're going to do are ones I do for every spread, as long as I have enough cards to make it make sense that I'm going to do it. Okay, usually at least 5 cards, because then I get I get the chance available of one of every suit for the suit-based permutation or rearrangement called the whole person summary. So we're going to do the Celtic cross. We're going to turn the wheel, which gives us like a now and then next and then finally. We're going to do past, present, future, which is going to rearrange these cards into groups of past, present, future, as the future influences the past, and the past was the future, and the future becomes the present, etc. And then we're going to do the path of Hermes, which is a complete rearranging of the entire spread. Then we'll do the whole person summary. Then we'll do the fool's journey. Then we'll do the oracle cards. And at some point in there, if I'm like, I'm being too nice about this, I would use the more critical lens. I would like just wipe the slate clean and like start a new tab or a sheet of paper and like go through this in a more like traditional way. But the little bit I caught from OPs, the Reddit users, commenters post was that overall it seemed like a very positive spread. So I think just looking at it right away, I think it's pretty positive. So I'm probably not gonna do the more critical thing. Like you can find that kind of reading anywhere, so I don't need to work on providing it or like denying it. I'm going to show you what I do, and we're going to get started. This bandage is because I burned my hand, and it's just got like really ugly blisters, so to protect them and to protect us from having to see it. That's what this is, okay? No worries. Okay, so here you are. The querent is someone who has built a lot and is kind of at like the top level of that journey. We've accumulated a lot of skills, we've got a lot of foundation, and now you're being crossed by, for what am I building this empty cathedral? Or I'm in this cathedral, and is there anyone left who believes like in the power of God or spirituality or whatever to come? Like, are there any good people left? And if there are, where are they? Is this cathedral that I'm building worth it to anyone? Like, what was the point of doing all this work? Because it's empty, and it looks empty, and it looks dire. So that's what you're crossed by. You're crossed by the work you've done, and like, should you elevate? Should you do more? Should you learn more? Should you do it at all? Is it time to like choose and chase mediocrity? Is it time to leave the construction of the cathedral? And I'm getting that just from this. This imagery here is like, oh, he's building a cathedral, like this kind of like church imagery. And now the bottom card is the foundation of where you are. Like, this is the central energy of what's happening. So Wheel of Fortune is like one of the trickiest cards for me to read. When it's like this, I feel like you have a chance to turn the wheel. It's like a wheel spinning. It's like it's coming by you and you can change the trajectory or grab it or whatever. And when it's reversed, I consider that the wheel is already turning. I also will say that when I was pulling all these cards, I was missing one, and I was like, oh, which one is it? Which one is it? And then I looked again, and I was like, fortune. And to me, that was meaningful. Like, the foundation here is fortune. The other way we could take this is that this symbol here, the X in the circle, is usually the symbol for like earth and or fate. And the idea of fate is like, it's your lot on this earthly realm, like you just have to deal with it. And fate also being like a physical thing that happens to you, like it's the events of your life that happen to you. So we could have a blend of, here we are in an opportunity, we are on a trajectory, and there's an opportunity to change it, to shift it. We can put our hands on it right now to influence that as much as possible, like anytime, depending where you are in like fate and free will. And or this is like a fated time, and or this is part of your like fate to experience, like this is part of the path. So there's different ways we could read that. The way I generally read it is like the wheel is turning and it's going by you at such a distance, such a rate that you could tap it and have it go that way down the hill, or that way over into the neighbor's garden, or just let it go by and like stay your hand. Like you've got options here. Here in the recent past, what used to be the foundation, but you've outgrown it, you've graduated, or you've got memories of this being what you were in, is the King of Cups. So the King of Cups is a very like intense kind of person. Mary K. Greer's other book that I've read, 21 Ways to Read a Tarot card, has you like enter into the card and like get to know it and like look at what comes out to you. And this card as well, when in my like astrological associations, is the Scorpio card because kings are fixed and cups is water. So fixed water is Scorpio. So that would be this guy. And what I got when I got into this card and like had my moment with that card exercise is that like he's kind of looking away from everybody and he's holding these two cups and there's a ship back here and he's not like really focused on like the reader. Like some cards look right out at you and he's just like gazing off into the middle distance. And when I got into that card, he like started to turn his head towards me and it was so intense and it was like he's looking away to protect you from the level of that intensity. And then this can also classically be like someone who has a lot of like creative skills that they use in kind of like a masculine business corporate sort of way. So like business consultations or like advertising or I don't know. And then when it's reversed, it's like, and all of that creativity is flowing out more. This can also be a card of like substance abuse or like leaning on like alcohol or whatever. And then when I went into this card, like he's got this detached, very intense whatever, and he's sitting amidst the ocean and he's not phased by it because he's as intense as the ocean. And then like in my little exercise where I went into the card, this ship was like filled with all like the women in his life that are like, oh my god, tell us he's still okay, like he won't come to the ship, and they're all just like this wailing women. So I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it would seem like you were in this like creative developmental point of mastery where like you kind of fixed your creative skills into what you had built, and now you're like, so what do I do with it? Now I'm in this like trajectory changing. You can apply where the waves are going to shift to. You can decide where that ship or where your gaze is going to go. So that was where you were in this like very assured building your creative like fixing with the Scorpio signification, like fixing the creative waters around you into something. And it seems like you fixed it into like the spiritual, mental, and like work development that you've done to serve the ideas of love and light and like human connection, another water theme. And now you're in this phase where like, what even is that trajectory? Where even is it going? And is there more in these cups for you to pour out? Is there more to offer, like on this greater purpose, if that's what this trajectory is? Now, the 5 card, the top card, a lot of people are like, higher self or dreams or aspirations. To me, this is the should card. Here you are, here's where you've been, this is you right now, and you're crossed by some kind of idea, and so you think that you should. You're feeling pressure to. You're feeling pressure to get to the work of it, to show up every day and apply your energy to whatever it is you're supposed to apply it to serve this greater purpose. So that's your should energy, to show up and work. And what's actually going to happen next is you're going to have this comeuppance with your body versus your mind. So all the knights to me are like double bodied, and they have the horse, which to me is the body, and the knight, which is the mind or the rider, the director, the ego. And so in the progression of like, pages don't have anything really to do. They're just there to learn and do their chores, and they don't have any responsibility. If they don't put out the dinner plates, you can do it, and it's not a big deal. It's whatever. The knight is now given responsibility in task form. You got to do this, you got to do that. And in between all those tasks, he gets to go around and adventure and develop and basically learn how to balance, what I want to do and what I got to do with the time in between, and to listen both to the mind and the should and the ambition and the accepting of more and more authority both in the world and for your own life, and the limits and the realities that like you have to stop and feed your horse and it can only go so far, and you've got to go back and get like another assignment from the king at some point. So when the night cards are reversed, it's like the horse is at the top of the card, you overshot everything, and now the body is calling the shots for a little while, and or you're like allowing the body to move forward, which particularly when the Knight of Swords is reversed, it means that you are letting the ego, and they're like, we need to do this, we need to do that. You're letting it take a back seat, and you're letting the body bring you forward to what you want to go to. And like this horse is like terrified and like, why are you pushing me essentially into the past when it's upright. When it's upright. When it's reversed, this horse, unless the body is like rushing forward with an alacrity, with a momentum that like you could never like get from it because you've let go of the reins. You've let the mind serve the body and put the body up and put the body first. So you've got this upright, and so the mind is very busy and telling you to go there and do this and accomplish that. And I believe that you're possibly not giving enough space to the body to just bring you to what you want to go to. So humans are very good at learning. It's the only thing we do. And there's a level of self-trust that you've always made it, allegedly, I'm assuming. You're here now. And it's like I trust that my body is going to bring me to the opportunities, to the lessons, to the teachers, to the roles that I need to learn at or that I need to be. I'm going to trust that it's going to get me there. And maybe you don't have that. Maybe you've been in this big developmental phase and you're adding all your skills and you're building this cathedral for people to come and worship at and enjoy. And you've put a lot of like self or like a lot of the emotions, you've put that away and you've put it into something constructive. And now you're like, okay, now what's the next task? What are we going to do? And that's a lot of like mental, idea, ambition. And like, have you checked in with your body? When's the last time you had downtime? You may be on like a crash course or a collision course where body says you've ignored me too long and now I'm going to take over. I was going to take a pause and like go into a depression tangent because of the nihilism and like the ability of all the nights to like kind of overdo it with like the ego and the ambition and what should I do, what am I supposed to do, and then the body has to take over and be like, well, now we're working at my pace. So you're not there yet, but I wonder if that's part of it. Oh, here's my depression tangent, is that when you ignore the body for too long, when you push, it's like a symptom of you're resting and you won't listen to me is the nihilism and is like the really dramatic depression. And like my experience with that is that I am not listening so diligently to my body, but I pay attention to the message of like nothing's worth it. I don't even want to be here. I'll be like, whoa. Where's that coming from all of a sudden? And then if I follow that, it's like, oh, my shoulder hurts. And I knew that 4 hours ago, but I didn't rotate my shoulder or get up or do anything. And like it just built and built and built. And I've learned to I'm not going to pay attention to you until suddenly I have this like, oh, I'm sure we're dead. Just like, what? And then if I follow that through, it's like, yeah, a part of your body feels dead to you because you ignore it and you push it and you neglect it and you say you don't matter as much as the thought I have to think right now. You don't matter. My own body and how comfortable it is or what it's telling me doesn't matter as much as the ruminating I've got to do and the thoughts I got to think and the things I got to brood about and all the problems of the world I got to solve. So that's my tangent there. And then we can go to card 7, which is like this is you and that's the other. This is the action and this is the equal opposite reaction. So I feel like a lot of people have this as like this is what you're trying to do and that's the judgment, and that's absolutely fair as the reaction and the equal and opposite reaction. But as the action and the opposite equal reaction, facing this, acknowledging this, seeing that when you're doing this is the proof that you're on the path of this, is the proof that like that's a sign marker of like, yep, like success comes with haters, right? Like if you see a hater, it means you're successful. So like don't take it too personally and it's not a problem to solve. It's like part of the path. Card 9 is the key and the crux. I usually skip it and I usually like leave it. I'm usually doing these one by one and I leave it face down and I skip to card 10 because this is a whole cycle. And if you're interpreting, you're like, okay, this is what I'm trying to do, and that's the equal opposite reaction, and where is that leading me to? If you don't want that, if you don't like that outcome, then you're going to do what you usually do when this energy comes around, and that's going to bring you to square one again, and then you're going to have a new chance to deal with this or to have a different outcome. If you want to progress to this, if this card 10 is something you actually want, then you're going to deal with this in a new way. The key and the crux is a regular pattern you have, and you can either deal with it in a new way and progress or graduate to that new cycle, and this card 10 will become the new card 1 in whatever cycle you're going into, or same old. However you deal with it, it's going to bring you back to card one. This is a this is like a important distinction to make, because sometimes this is a really negative card, or you're going to read it in a negative way, and you're like, but I don't want that. It's like, well, then don't. Then when this opportunity comes along, don't take it. That kind of thing. But if you do want this, then you know that this is what you're here to focus on. This is what you're going to be doing right away, and then this is what you're going to be doing, you know, to get into the next cycle instead of going through this again. Okay? So, here you are, you're trying to learn how to trust yourself. You're trying to quiet the anxieties and move forward. The pages also are here to learn. So you're maybe trying to learn. You're trying to learn a new way of think, or have a new perspective on your anxieties and to quiet them. Only the court sword cards have these little like bird figures, these little like tiny, the little like M's that you draw as like birds. Only the court sword cards have these. So there's a lot of anxiety and mental wind, and it's a very active card, like with the wind blowing. And so this card basically means the same thing to me either way. It's like you've got anxiety, and how it is like, how does this guy look? And he looks more confident to me. But the idea here is he's walking into the future, but he's watching the past. He's looking at the past, and he doesn't really trust the future. He's got his sword up in front of him in case something comes at him from the future, which makes sense because he's not paying any attention over there to like react to it. He's looking at the past. And so the pages don't have to do anything. They don't have to provide. They don't have to monetize what they're learning. They don't have to be responsible what they're learning. They don't have any pressure to like, you need to grow up now and apply it, because we have no knights and we have no kings, and you need to step up. So where you are right now is you're very frantic mentally, and it's coming into the body to be like anxiety and distress. And so what you're trying to do is quiet the mind and like maybe go back to your basic like mental health techniques, because you said you worked on like a bunch of mental stuff, so it's like maybe going back to basics. And it's taking the pressure off yourself to solve it, to be the one responsible, to be like, I know what's going to go on. The King of Swords is like, I'm making a decision actively in the world, I know. And the reverse King of Swords and the reverse Ace of Swords is like, you don't need to know right now, you don't need to make a decision. That's also the Page of Swords, because it's such a young energy. It's an energy that you would not put responsibility onto. So apparently this is you right now, trying to, I guess also trying to get out of the responsibility of having to know that it's worth it, that there's a purpose, that everything you do is going to get somewhere, and that everything you've done is leading you somewhere safe and like happy for you to develop more. And the equal and opposite reaction to that, what you're going to face, what you're going to come against when you do that, is you have to feel stuff. Little kids have all their feelings, right? And if you've got big feelings and big words and big language to talk about big fears, you gotta feel it, and you've got to nurture yourself through it. You not only have to be the scared child you not only have to be the scared child that asks, is everything going to be okay? Is this all worth it? Like, the world is good, right? You also have to be the nurturer of that and give space to fully feel it, and to rub your own back and be like, yeah, buddy, we're going to be okay. Like, it's okay to have these worries, and you can bring them to me anytime. But then also, like, you have to feel it, right? And my experience with feeling it is that unless you have like PTSD, or you end up being in like perpetual states, which don't do it then, I find that like the big feelings or the big fears, like realistically, if I give into it and I start worrying, my circuits are going to fry, and I'm going to like get petered out with the emotion in like 45 minutes, 2 hours, to like maybe the rest of the day. But I also know that if I feel it and I quit resisting it, I'm going to get out of it, and I'm going to have a clear head, or I'm going to have perspective on it way sooner than if I were like, no, I'm not allowed to feel that, or I won't give in. So if you don't think it's going to derail you for weeks, have a bad day, right? Really feel it. Let yourself feel it. Trust yourself to get through that feeling. And that's like part of whatever path you're on here. So we're going to skip card 9, and we're going to say, with all of that, with everything I've said now, this is leading you to a new cycle of card 10. Upright, the Four of Cups, is someone who is not taking the offered cup, someone who's fine and contained and doesn't need information, doesn't need inspiration, doesn't need intuition, doesn't need whatever this is offering. And it's usually like a distracting offer. They're not distracted, they're solid, they're emotionally like 4 is the foundation, cups is emotion, like they're emotionally solid enough to not be enticed by like what's over there. They've got what they need. Okay. The reverse 4 of cups accepts what's offered. The reverse 4 of cups takes that inspiration, tries the new thing, sips the Kool-Aid, whatever that is, and is like in the process of building or restabilizing emotionally. So do you want that? If that's something you want, then you're going to have to deal with this energy kind of as it comes up. If you don't want that and you kind of want another chance to go through this cycle and maybe have a different outcome, with different experience or through time, free will, changing energies, planetary movements, whatever would provide a different outcome if you like don't take this now. The key and the crux, what you've got to do differently if you want to get to that, is you have to let your body lead with passion. You've got to take a step down. So this knight up here, he's got a really impassive face and the horse is rearing. So it's kind of like, do you even know you're rearing, bud? He has flatlined, he's completely checked out, and now the body has to like almost buck him off. So to me what this says is you've been a king, you've been the top of your level, you're proud of yourself and you're proud of the work, you feel really solid. Trust that that's not going to go anywhere if you take a day or a week or 6 months or 4 years to kind of let that all go. You've got enough like habits built, I bet, and like so the things you need to do don't take a lot of brain power and aren't really overwhelming. It's time to let go. It's time to turn the mind off as much as you can. Like absolutely flood yourself with like true nurturing and care and what do pages need in order to like play and learn and develop. They need rest, they need food, they need to physically feel secure, and they need to emotionally feel secure, like any toddler, any child who's developing. So do you regularly let yourself be hungry? Do you regularly let yourself have a sleep debt and be sleep deprived? Do you say things like, I'll sleep when I'm dead? Do you either keep relationships or keep yourself in situations where you're not physically safe, where you don't feel like you can relax and breathe and play and eat and be hungry and be grumpy and whatever? Do you not give yourself any interest or credit or time to daydream or be bad at stuff or try new things or be silly? And when you do those things or when you have an interest, do you poo-poo it? Or do the people in your life like poo-poo the tarot? You know what I mean? So you've got to give yourself food and rest, like any toddler. If you're like, play, relax, and they were having a tantrum, it's because they need to feed or they need to rest, or hygiene, like if you're neglecting basic hygiene, you got to go back to basics. But then also the physical space, and also the physical space to play. Like you need to open up a space where you can come to your cards and you don't have to move anything out of the way first. Your cards are there ready for you. Like I'm sure you're aware of this with the work you've done. Like you don't do chores because there's some moral aspect to doing chores. You do chores so that you build the habit, so there's no brain power required, no activating power required. And you do chores so that your workspace is ready for you whenever you have the inspiration or the desire or the need to go to work. So do you have a play space? Do you have a space, particularly a mental play space? Do you have a favorite window you gaze out of, like to watch trees or birds or clouds? Do you like picture books or like I Spy books or something where your brain gets to go beep boop in the background and not always be searching for an answer and trying to like come up with the next big thing or the next move or the next thing for your body to be doing? Because your body probably wants to just sit for a while and have a lot of downtime and a lot of play and a lot of rest and relax because you've done a lot. So like maybe the next thing is relaxing. Okay, so you've been a king and now you're trying to find play, find hope, find whimsy again, which means you've got to now be a queen. And that's probably going to be really uncomfortable for you because you have all this king energy. And that's going to get you a chance to be in the night space where there's things you can do. There's energy you have to spend, and you're not going to do it unless you find yourself doing it. You're not going to push yourself. You're not going to discipline yourself. You're going to sit down and rest until you're uncomfortable and you're sore and you're antsy and you've got that mind, that voice 2 inches from your face being like a drill sergeant yelling at you, like, get up, you maggot, you're going to ignore all that, and you're not going to get up until you find yourself already up. That is my experience with nihilism and depression and doing. And that is going to get you into a space where you're able to accept care and nurturance and like the filling of your own cup. Yeah? But like, it's got to be provided. You also have to provide it because you're an adult and that's the way it works, unfortunately. So that's the Celtic cross. That would just be the Celtic cross interpretation. But now I'm going to turn the wheel. This is not a permutation that I use all the time. I don't really like it. I certainly don't turn it every time. I just do it mentally. But then that gets confusing as well. So I usually skip this one, but we'll do it. So here we are in this, you know, energy right now where we can change the trajectory, which I hope that means that you don't crash out. I hope that means that you choose instead to like take a sabbatical and like have a controlled crash out where you're like, okay, we're gonna feel it. It's gonna be what it is, but I'm walking into it instead of being forced into it. It's like the idea of system maintenance. You either schedule your system maintenance or it schedules it for you. And if you like if you're in that world, if you're in like, I don't know, the engineering or the manufacturing world, it's perfectly within line of engineering and like the way factories work that you wait until something fails and then you do the shutdown and the maintenance because it's just the good timing for it. I would love for you to not treat yourself like that. I would love for you to schedule first with your body messages that this is failing. We don't need to fail catastrophically like a machine. But if you get there, like that's a normal part of life as well. So like don't beat yourself up if you find that you are in the crash out. And if you are in the crash out, like let this reading be like it's aligned and it's getting you to a place where you learn to accept nurturing because you have to, right? If that's the only way you get into the receiving of water energy instead of the controlling and producing and sharing of water energy, then I guess that's the stage of development you're in right now as far as self-care goes. So now we'll turn the wheel. Here you are in this trajectory changing or the possibility of trajectory changing moment. You're in this place of like where fate comes into the life and like just the fate of reality, you know? And so you're in this place where you're in this like moment of changeable trajectory. You're coming from a place of having like really solidified your creative skills in probably a very internal way, with or without relying on substances or some kind of external thing to help you through that. And now you're feeling like you should get to work. You should apply to something else. You should be showing up every day like in this king energy. But what's actually happening next is you're going to keep spiraling. You're going to get really in the mind, and that's going to be kind of distressing to the body. You're going to have a lot of ideas of what you should be doing, and that's going to give a lot of mixed signals to the body, and it's going to be a little bit distressed. Then when you're in that energy of like, you know, kind of frazzled Knight of Swords energy, which we can also give this the astrological treatment. Knights are mutable, swords is air, so this is Gemini. So maybe when you start talking to people, when you start seeing a therapist, when you start articulating, free writing, journaling, Mercury is like an artist, like he's handsy. So Gemini can be like maybe you're writing, maybe you're doing some painting or some sketching. Like once you get into a more communicative space where you're communicating with your body because you realize it's been distressed and you remember that time when you were like something's got to change and so you changed it, then you're going to feel like the pressure is to like just embody that emotionally and immediately be a king with that energy. But actually it's going to be time to go to work with it. You're going to have to show up every day and give this space, the space you've given all of the physical stuff that you've built that you can like physically see has an impact. Now it's time for the stuff that you've been neglecting. When you're showing up every day in this work, where you remember how frazzled and how disconjointed and how all over the place and multitasking and like mutable air, how your mind was everywhere and nowhere, and the disconnect that had from your body, once you have that as a memory and what you're in is the work every day, like you know how to do, of showing up to give like space to play or whatever, then you're going to feel like, okay, now things are going to change. Now it's time for my fortunes to change. But it's actually going to be time to like embody that work and probably bring it more into like connect it as a water, connect it to other facets of your life. So you're going to maybe add like more, I don't know, more communication into all of those with what does your body think about that, as well as the creative thing, the ways you've contained yourself creatively. Now it's time to like be in that and probably apply this work to that phase. When you are containing all of this within your like psyche and your emotional body, and you're becoming like a king again in your emotional energy, because you have this recent memory of showing up for yourself and doing the work, then you're going to feel like, okay, now it's time to sort out what we were doing, and now it's time to go do something else again. Like now it's time, now that I'm centered and now that I have, my emotional stuff under control and like I'm back in my power again. Now what are we going to do? Now what? There's this habit we can have, especially with the overwork or the hyperproductive, crowd, where, especially if you've never allowed your nervous system to calm down, or it's never had the opportunity to calm down, and you've always been in this state of having to prove and be efficient and be phenomenal, that, and like if life has just always kept hitting you, it can feel like everything's like, what next? What's next? Or as soon as you experience something good, because you're so used to things ending and changing, that as soon as you've been like, oh, this is nice, it's like, okay, but what now? It's like, no, you have to sit in it for a while, okay? You're going to feel like you should now apply the new energy and the balance and the emotional stability that you have into now applying what's next. I'm going to go do it. But now it's time for things to change. Now your trajectory will change. Now your fortunes will change, because you will have stabilized and you will not have immediately once again abandoned yourself to some higher or external work that neglects your body and your emotions. And that will bring you around full circle into a space where you are in, like your hands are on the wheel, you're able to change the trajectory of your fate, of your fortune. So that's turning of the wheel. The next one we're going to do is past, present, future. So these two cards here go into the past, as well as the 9, as the future is just the past looping around. The future is present in the past, and the past influences the future. We're going to take these two cards and we're going to apply them to the future, as the present becomes the future and the future pulls in the present. And then we're going to take these cards. Now every time I turn the crossed card, I've developed where I always turn it this way so that I remember. So you can do whatever you want. You can also not have a method that you rely on. You could just do whatever you want every time. So, and in the present, we've got these energies and these energies. So in the past, maybe you felt very fortunate, or you're like very solid in your life, you were on a path. Or in the past, you remember when you began all of this developmental journey and you changed your fate, or you changed course, or you chose your path then. And it was, maybe you had a lot of emotions, you had a lot of creativity, and you didn't know where to place it. It was very intense. So you put it into pushing your body into a lot of stuff. In the future, you're going to find yourself working diligently, like being in a kind of fixed spiritual energy or a fixed fire energy, and sitting on your throne and containing your power with his fist, containing your power. And you're going to find yourself, so over here, I want to give this the best spin possible. So I don't want to say you're going to be on crash course to a crash out. I want to say most positively you're going to have this mutable air energy of Gemini, of you're going to be sitting in the work of communicating with your body. That's how I would like to read it, because I want this to be positive, right? That's my bias coming through. That's my nice reader coming through. And you're going to be in a position to accept help, to accept nurturing, to have new dreams, and to be building a new emotional foundation, a new emotional structure of foundation. And in the present, where we are right now, is we're in this, you're right at the end of a cycle of like what you've built, what you've manifested, what's physically in your life. And you're ready for the level up. You're ready to be brought to a higher level, a higher purpose, a new cathedral, because this one's done. Like, what's the next project? And you're ready for those people to like come to you and notice and be like, you're so developed, or like you're at such a tier. Like, we have the project for you, we have the work for you, we want you to serve us. And you have a lot of anxiety, and you don't know how to rest, and you don't know how to play with it. And so you need to be flooded by emotion. You've done a whole bunch of work, but like, how do you feel about it? You mentally feel proud about it, but like, yeah, how's the How's the emotional state? And are you allowing, I don't know, are you allowing that topsy-turvy emotional state? Are you allowing the anxiety to also be part of your level up? Right? Like through this reading, I've talked a lot about, I don't know, different things that I've got from my experience of being like a depressed person, a melancholic person, going through those things, and how do I do it, and how do I bring that like into my readings. Is that possible for you? Is that what this moment is you flooding yourself with emotion and learning how to care, and then you bring that, you said that you are proud of yourself as a man, so you identify as a man. Can you bring that space to the male space? Is that part of the work that you have in the future to offer? These kings and this frazzled, we need to be doing something all the time energy, are you going to be the hand that they trust to accept that from because you're a peer? That's just my 2 cents on that. But here you are, you're at the limit and you don't know where to go, and your next opportunity to that upgrade flows in when you feel. It flows in on the other side of you allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling right now and not needing to get out of it and not needing to prove that you like have the skills, I don't know, that make this make sense, right? I hope that made sense. So that's past, present, future. Now we're going to do the path of Hermes, which is a numbered spread. I can do it from this, but I'm going to rearrange the Celtic cross so that it's less confusing. So in the Celtic cross, we had this guy. This was our 9. And then 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And then I turn it that way. Yes, it pointed that way. I turn it that way. And that's why I do the regular, so that if I have to rearrange it, I kind of can just reverse engineer how it was. So the path of Hermes is card 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 is off to the side as the new cycle, as the new start. So what this is a fractal pattern of something beginning, or the thesis, the beginning of something resisting it, or the antithesis, and then something combining that and moving it forward, or the synthesis. And then that fractal goes into each triangle. So we have the thesis of the thesis, the beginning of the beginning, the antithesis of the thesis, the thing resisting it, and the synthesis of the thesis, the thing that's going to bring it forward into our thesis of the antithesis, the beginning of the resistance, the antithesis of the antithesis, the thing that pulls you through that, and the synthesis of the antithesis, how does that blend into the thesis of the synthesis, the beginning of the blend, or like the doorway, the gateway through, the antithesis to the synthesis, the thing that's going to resist this blending, this forward momentum, and the synthesis of the synthesis, how do you bring it all together and actually move up into card 10, the new cycle. So I'm not going to keep interpreting this. We've done that once, so that's not going to change. The beginning of the beginning is that you're here and you're at your limit. Physically, like in the mundane material world, what's next? You don't know. The thing that's pushing against all this development you have and all this wealth and like structure that you have and all the work that you've done is you're like, what's the point? And what's it for? And what's next? And the thing that's going to bring you through is that your fortunes are changing, and that this is a fortune laden time, and that you have a fate and you're on a path and you have a destiny, and this is part of it. The antithesis to the thesis, the thing that's resisting everything, is you might be really locked in emotionally. You might really push your emotions down unless they're in service to work or a boss or to somebody else, and you might avoid your own intensity. And so if that's part of this level up, is you've got to face your own intensity, you've got to face how deep you've buried those emotions, you've got to face the reliance you've had on substances or external factors to like give you validation, that's going to resist all of this like moving forward. But what's going to push through that is you know how to do the work, you know how to show up, and you have like just as much of this barrier energy being like the emotional walls you've built up. You know how to use your spiritual energy and like the heat of your body. You know how to stand up and do something. You know how to get started. And you know how to sit there day in, day out and do it. So King of Wands, King is fixed, Wands is fire, so this is Leo. The Sun rules Leo, The sun rises every day. You're not going to negotiate with that. You're not going to mess it up. You're not going to change it. It's consistent. It's fixed. It's a fixed part of our reality. And so that's what's going to help resist this resistance, resist all this cold, watery, feel like you're drowning, feel like you're isolated in your emotions. This heat is going to turn some of that into steam, which sure is going to cloud the horizon. You're not going to see very clearly. But like you have this inner fire, and that is what is going to help bring you through. You want to live. You want to believe in love and light. You want to be a light shining on the world. And so that's going to help you get through this very emotional, very fluid time. Because what's going to bring you through is learning to communicate with your body, learning to communicate at all, like reaching out. And, you know, if you've got to crash out, allowing that as well. Like, what's coming up right now is, do you not allow yourself any kind of negative expression or any kind of crash out? Are you always productive? And does that put you in a place of meeting someone that's not always as productive of you and judging them? Can you open up to different possibilities? Can you experience it so that you have the compassion for it? That was an aside. Now, the thesis of the synthesis, what is beginning in all of this to bring us forward, is that you're coming back to a beginner state. You're admitting that you don't know or that you misused your responsibility. You're coming down into a place where you're learning, and you're learning how to trust. You're learning how to trust what you're learning. You're learning how to trust your own body to bring you to what you need to learn. The resistance to that, the antithesis to the synthesis, is that it's going to take a lot of feeling. It's going to take a lot of nurturing. It's not a drive. It's not an ambition. It's not wondering where the authority is or who's giving it to me. It's having it and it's wielding it for you. The Queen of Wands reversed, Queen of Wands in general is kind of like, Queen of Cups is like, it may not be your fault, but now that you're an adult, it's your responsibility. So, maybe the things you're going through don't have a fault, don't have someone to blame. And that can be hard because we always want to outsource. But now the responsibility to like nurture and care for yourself through this change, through whatever's going on, that's on you. So that's going to be uncomfortable. That's the antithesis to the synthesis. That is what's going to resist this blending forward. But what's going to bring the whole entire thing forward is your body, your energy. You're going to sit in it. You're going to trust in it. You're going to trust in what you've built. That is what's pulling through the opposition. And that spark is going to carry you forward. Not because you demand it, not because you are even excited about it. You're going to kind of check out as the ego, as the mental zone, as the rider. And you're going to see what your body does. And what your body will probably bring you to is nurturing, new opportunities to feel nurtured, new opportunities to build a new emotional foundation. Okay, that is the Path of Hermes, and that is the last of the exclusively Celtic cross permutations or rearrangements that I do. The next two that I do, the whole person summary is the last one I learned from that book. And then the Fool's Journey is one I've developed over time because I would rearrange it by suit, and then I was like, well, what about my number? So that's what those two are. And those two I do all the time, doesn't matter. And then after that, I'm going to relay out the Celtic cross as it was, and I'm going to add in all of my oracle cards to show you how I would deal with adding lots of oracle cards into this situation. And I may or may not redo the cross with them there for context as well. I'm not sure. Okay. So the reason I do all these before I do the other ones is because all of these are kind of numbered, and they're numbered out of the Celtic cross, whereas the whole person summary is an elemental suit, or elemental spread, and the Fool's Journey is a numerical spread. So you don't have to worry about like what was card 1, what was card 9. But you do want to keep the proper orientation of everybody, which is this card also has to be, the cross card also has to be kind of upright in these because they're like symmetrical spreads. So that's why I also have like a dedicated method for turning this card so that it's always in like a consistent orientation across my readings. The cross card goes like this, and then I interpret it like how I turned it, even though it's not crossed anymore. Like I take it as the reversed or the upright meaning, right? Okay. So the whole person summary is an elemental where we do fire, elemental or suits. We do wands, cups, swords, pentacles, major. And then the order is descending court, so king, queen, I'm just having a brain fart here because I actually consider the queen above the king in terms of like if we're thinking of kings of like authority, as well as queens are cardinal. But I'm going to leave kings because they initiate. And like, what do they initiate? What are they holding? You know, they're the barrier. Okay, great. We worked that out. Work that out in real time. So it's going to go king, queen, knight, page, ace, 2 to 10. That's the order. So we're going to start with fire, king, and knight. And this is a symmetrical spread, so it's lots of fun. I like it a lot. And I do all of my spreads get the whole person summary if I have at least 5 cards, because that gives an opportunity for each suit to come out. And it's made it so that most of my readings have at least 5 cards so that I can for sure do this spread, which is like my favorite thing to do with my cards. Any kind of reading, look at them holistically and from different angles over and over and get like a really thorough, like every facet of the diamond, every facet of the message gets poured through this way. It makes it difficult if you are missing the message from the get-go. But it also offers variation because you're looking at it again, like if it just doesn't make sense, there's time for different interpretations to come through. So now we can do cups, king, queen, 4, and then we can do swords, a lot of pips. I'm a very major arcana heavy person, so I usually have like something of like a structure, a tower, a cake with a big candle or whatever. The other reason this is not online is because this barely fits here in the camera, and there's all this dead space which is useless, and you can't even like see the images on the cards. It's so far. So if you're like, how come there aren't more like Celtic crosses or like people showing you on YouTube like how to do it, it's because it's hard to set up the angle. This is a feat of engineering by me. Okay, it's not really, it's just a tripod laying down with some bolsters on it anyway. And yeah, it's hard to see the cards, so like that's my explanation of why I haven't seen this more often. But anyway, we're going to look at the shape of things, and if you have absolutely nothing, like if you didn't have any pentacles, then there's 2 options for that. The first option is that this does not even matter, which is why it's not present in your spread, showing basically your present state and where you are. This is so like not on the radar. You don't need to worry about it at all. That's why there's a gap. Or it means the opposite, that you are not thinking about this at all and it's a complete missing piece and it's creating a gap in your structure. So usually if it's been kind of like a negative reading and there's a gap, I'll be like, you're missing the point. You're missing like the whole emotional piece if there's no cups. But you don't have any gaps, so there isn't anything that like is so taken care of you don't even need to worry about, and there isn't anything that like you're missing the point completely. However, we can see that there's a preponderance of cups and we're balancing on just this one little archetypal energy. So wands are creative energy, spiritual energy, and sometimes sexual energy. Like, what are you doing with your fire? What are you doing with your like life force? Cups are the ability to love and dream. Swords are not only negative, it's not only negative self-talk. In really positive situations, it can also be like mental acumen and using the tools of your mind appropriately. Pentacles is stability, material world, your money, your resources, your security. And then major arcana, this row down here, if there are archetypes in your life that are trying to be present. So if they're upright, you're totally aware of this energy, of this archetype, and you're accepting it and you're working with it. And if it's reverse, this archetype is begging you to let it come through and be present and like not be scared or not avoid, and like let me up, you know, like let this aspect of self through. Okay, so we start at the top. Creative energy, life energy, you've got it, and you're maybe feeling a little bit resentful, and you don't know what to do with it. You don't know where to go with it. But you're maybe intrigued by the idea that the body knows more than the mind knows. The body knows more than you know. Cups, emotional energy, dream energy, the ability to love, dream, and accept love, and like daydream. You've got the power. You've got the skills, like you have it all in you. And you've maybe kept your feet dry from it and kept separate from it. And now it's time to let it flow into you. This is going to offer you new perspectives and a new emotional foundation, which is what you're seeking from this isolated, like emotionally distant, closed off kind of place that may or may not be reliant on work, external validation, or substances. The mental space is very busy, and I would say that you're not too mean to yourself because the tips of both of these swords are off the page, so it's not like the cutting like tip of the sword, the piercing edge is here in view, but you certainly like to hold those swords aloft, like probably ready for that. You maybe always have an answer ready for something. You maybe always have, when you're interested in feeling something about the past or interested in being curious about some new thing or some maybe embarrassing thing in the future, you maybe shut it down. You go, no, no, no. And the you that wants to be curious about the future is looking to the past to be like, well, I was ridiculed in the past, or I was mean to myself in the past. And in the past, like every time you try to go into that space freely, safely, like under your own volition and control, you tighten up the reins, you say, no, that's not allowed, that's not productive, that's not serving anybody. But like, is there a way to be nicer to yourself? Because you have the mental acumen to wield, you have the tools to wield. And it seems like you grip it tightly and wield it with anxiety. Wield it with the assumption maybe that you're not doing enough or you're doing it wrong or something like that. In our pentacles, our stability, you're very stable. You're very supported, you're very secure. You've worked very hard for it. You've worked a long time for it, and it's there. So you don't really need to worry about, if you were like tying into the earlier parts of the reading, if you were to crash out, if you were to take a little bit of the heat off of like the working and the showing up and the serving, I think you would be okay. I feel like you have the resources and the support and the infrastructure that you could shift your focus to more like leisurely, emotional, flowy, let's see where it takes us kind of pursuits, and that wouldn't really affect your security. That is what I'm taking from this. And then, oh, this should be backwards actually. 310, right? Okay. So that is all still true. I believe you have the security, but that's not the first thing we would have mentioned. We would have said that for Pentacles, in your security, you're doubting where you're going. You're doubting that you're operating at your highest, best level. You want kind of that creative challenge. You want to like climb the next mountain, but it doesn't have to be a mountain. You want to put your skills to use. You've developed them. You have them. Aren't you wasted here? Like, cataloging stone, shouldn't you be carving something beautiful? That kind of thing. And so yeah, if you wanted to take the sabbatical or the off ramp from whatever it is you're doing, that everybody loves it and they all come to you and you're like, you're so good, but you're like, I'm bored out of my effing mind. If you wanted to try new things, I do think that you would have the resources, the infrastructure, the support, the stability to do that. And then archetypal energy that we have is that this is upright, which means that you're fully aware, you're fully present with it, you're working with it, you know all about it. And so this is both, again, the opportunity to like change your trajectory, possibly change your fate. But you said in your question that like you believe that people are here for a reason, you believe in purpose. And so I come down to like the whole that's not very fun premise of this state you're in, where you got the energy and you got the skills, you don't know where to apply them, and you don't know where to go. And you've got to feel it. You've got to kind of let go and crash out and go to what you might consider a beginner state or a childhood state where like you need nurturing, you need guidance. And like maybe that's part of your fate, maybe that's part of your path. Right? You can't be sunny every day, the kind of thing. So that's the whole person summary. Now we're going to do Fool's Journey. So we don't have the Fool, but we do have a page, and to me, pages are the 0. For ones, we don't have the Magician, we don't have any aces, but for me, Knights are ones. Any 2? Oh, we have the Wheel of Fortune as well, which reduces to 1. Right? 1 plus 0 is 1. If you have a lot of Knights and aces, this gets very full very quickly. No 2s, 2 3s, 3 4s, no 5, no 6, no 7, no 8, no 9, and a 10. Okay, let me center that. Okay, 0. There's no fool here, so you're not on a brand new path. It's not like a new leg of your life. You're on a path that you've already been on, but now you're here developing the mental side of the path. The self-trust, the anxiety, the self-talk, how do you use your mental tools? That's the path you're on. That's the path you're starting. The tasks and tools of the one, because one, the magician, and one, the knights, work for the king. And they're not toiling all the time. He'll be like, I need this, and they go do it. Or he'll say to the magician, I need a storm, and he'll conjure it. And in the meantime, they get to have all their free time in between tasks, not being monitored, playing with their power, playing with their agency, and developing that level of responsibility to get more agency and power, right? Like, magician is around with his power, able to turn people into toads, but not so that he can stay in his position as court magician and have like the resources and everything that he needs. And then aces are the tools. So you don't have any aces, so we won't get into it. And it's like a whole thing about I think the classical rendition is like you got to use this power, you got to embody it, you got to utilize it. And if it's reverse, it's like you're abusing it, or you're misusing it, or you're denying it. To me, the aces are the hand of God. So we'll get into that in a different video. You don't have any aces, so we won't worry about it. But this is the tools and the tasks. So the tasks you have are to, and I'm going to lean on the mutable air, because otherwise it's such like a negative card. The tasks you have are to learn how to responsibly use what you're learning in the mental field, because here you're learning it through play and curiosity and like chores and like little layering of habit stacks, right? I'm sure you're used to because of all the other development you've done. Now you're doing it about mental self-talk. How do you spend your time? What are you anxious about? What do you ruminate on? And eventually that's the task you have, is you've got to learn how to wield it with your body. You almost have to learn how to cede to your body and let the mind serve the body. So mind has to do something to have something to chew on so that it's not trying to boss the body around. So we've got to learn how to play. Okay? That's what you're learning how to play for the service of the mind, right? To help your mind. The other task you have to do is, again, this night with the horse going to the future, you've got to check out of what you want, or feeling overly about it, because he's so impassive, about having big reactions about, maybe you find out you're into something, you like something, and a previous you would have judged you really hard for it. We're going to, totally impassive. We're not going to judge it. We're going to let the body be excited and go towards what it wants to go towards. Knight of Wands is going to be mutable fire, which is going to be Sagittarius, which is the seeker and the explorer and the philosopher. And so it might not be like travel or like going, it might be more like mental travel, trying new things, exploring new ideas. What excites you? What do you want to go after? And the tool or task that you have is the Wheel of Fortune. So I would consider this more of a tool than a task. And I would say that the tool you have at your disposal is, yes, you can change the trajectory of things right now. Like, fate is wheeling by at all times, and we don't always or almost ever have a handle on it. And I always, like, this is how the fate card or the fortune card always comes out for me, as like the Wheel of Fortune. Like, it's already turning, you're already on your path, there's momentum, don't worry about it. But here you can influence the trajectory and the momentum, and you can do it if you understand that you're on a new path of like mental beginnerdom, which requires space and nutrition and play. And what you're learning how to implement responsibly is how you interact with what you want and your passions and your body bringing you there, and the bullying of your mind and how that will distress your body. That's what you got to work with. There are no twos, so there should be a gap there. There are no twos, and two is like a thing and a thing. So there's like an acknowledgement there. So there's nothing to illuminate, there's nothing to acknowledge, there's not really any tension about like, oh, how do I move forward? It's pretty straightforward. Threes are a new thing. So we've got like a point and a point, and then either like the acknowledgement of like, you have an opinion and I have an opinion. That's neat, instead of just shouting the opinions. Or you have like a binary, so you've got like A and B, and then like a transcendental of the binary, like something in between, or even the acknowledgement of the binary is its own third space. The three turns into a triangle and can also be considered like birth, like you've got mom and dad and then a baby. And so three is something new is coming up. Some new thing is showing up. And the new thing showing up is you are going to level up into a new layer of mastery with how you flow with your emotions, how you embody your emotions. Four, what are you building? What's the structure? What's the authority? On this path, you are building and becoming and like having king energy over your energy and how you apply it. And he's looking directly at this guy and he's sitting and it's frustrating because he wants to sit, but he's mature enough to know that that's the best place. And that if he was meant to be standing, he'd already be up. And he's waiting for this energy to catch up to him. That is the stability and the foundation you're building, which is going to feel like you're not building anything because you're consolidating, right? You're consolidating a new emotional foundation, and that is going to be done. These are big energy cards. This is daily energy card. It's going to be done by accepting help, by accepting nurturance, by accepting you need care, by accepting the flow of new ideas and new inspirations. This king is looking directly away from that guy. He's holding his emotions in check. He's got his toe in the water here. He's looking to the future. It's a more emotional, a more embodied, a more soulful idea than the swords, right? The spark of life, the waters of life, right? The noise of the mind over here. And this is like teen energy. This is embodied. This is solid. This is consolidating. How do you gain? You accept. How do you consolidate more resources? You receive. Fives, there's no path to follow. There's no rules to follow. Six, there's no extra new thing that needs its whole new term that you need to acknowledge because the three and the three overlap. Like if you have like a red triangle and a blue triangle and you overlap, that's purple. You can't say it's bluish red or reddish blue. It's a whole new thing. And then six is also like tarot about like commitment and choice. Those meanings will come through in the other parts of my spread, whereas the ideas I want to have about number theory, which aren't really integral to like tarot, or they don't align perfectly, this is where I bring my version of number theory. So there's no like new thing that you need to acknowledge. It's an early thing. It's a foundational thing because we stop at the four. It's foundational. Seven, there's no need to find magic or meaning that you are applying to the order of the system you're following because you already are a magical person. This is your tarot spread that I just copied. Eight, there's no need for higher structure or higher order or to have like a higher order be delivered upon you. Nines, you're not almost at the end of something. You're not almost at that like THX come up like when is the drop gonna happen? Like you're not in this like suspenseful, we've worked so hard, are we gonna get to the end? You are at the end. You are at the end of like a material, physical, embodied cycle of accumulation and like work in the physical world, like tangible work. And you're about to start a new material cycle. And I don't know what that's going to be for you, but I hope it's going to be more embodied and less frictious, less having parts of you sat neglected, even though they've been there they're so old, and they're actually the root of you. They actually built this whole thing. Meanwhile, you're over here in a much younger stage, being like, okay, well, what's it all worth? And when this part, when this part dies, do we get it? What's the inheritance like? Like you're so graspy and I don't know, gold diggery about your own skills and what value they can have and what you can do with them, that you're about to go into a new, like, just wait, Bessie, you're gonna get into a new cycle soon. And that's why it's so tense. That's why you're like, I'm at the top here, like what's next? You're about to be a beginner again and be humbled and not be at the top. And I think you're gonna love it if you can, like, I think you're gonna love it if you can love yourself as a beginner. Yeah? Okay, that is the whole entireness of a spread. That is the full treatment of a Celtic cross with the turning of the wheel, past, present, future, the path of Hermes, and then those are the only Celtic cross specific spreads that I'll do. This whole person summary, which was the elemental symmetrical spread, and this whole person or this fool's journey, which is the numerical with the reduced major arcana spread. These two I do all the time if I can, as long as I have the cards for it, which is at least five for the whole person, but you can do it with less. You can just see what's predominant, right? What's predominant, what's missing, what do you want to interpret from that? And in the Fool's journey, it's like, what kind of path are you actually on here to give more context or structure to the rest of the spreads? Whereas the whole person summary is like the emotional embodiment, like how does it feel? What are you doing? What are your motivations? The Fool's journey is kind of like, and this is how you're going to apply it all. This is how you're going to go forward. This is the context you maybe need about where you are in the journey. The other thing about this gap here is that you're so skilled, you're so developed, you've worked so hard that you probably metabolize whatever lesson this is. As soon as you have the foundation, you probably metabolize it immediately into like peak, immediately into mastery. And so you don't need to go, you don't need to follow a path or a structure that someone else has laid out. You don't need to realize the new things and come to those ahas. You don't need to go through the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because as soon as you get this foundation, as soon as you give yourself a play space to receive love and care and inspiration and daydreams, you'll pop off. That is my reading for you, Reddit user. I'm going to do one more rearrange. I'm going to add in all the oracle cards. I'm not going to do the Celtic cross for it, I don't think, unless as they come out, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I will. I'll show you how I would do it if it was mine, okay? And then we'll do the oracle cards as like the final parting message for this reading. And yeah, that'll be it. Okay. So let's go back to the beginning, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This yellow deck is the Rest is Resistance deck by the Nap Bishop, Trisha Hersey, whose work centers around divesting from capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy, and centering rest as a holy teacher, and like Black liberation studies as the the thing that will offer us rest and knowledge. So I recommend checking her out. She has a book available called Rest is Resistance. I listen to it every now and again. Very soothing, restful, beautiful voice. So I recommend her work extensively, especially in light of this reading. Maybe you want to get this deck and follow the prompts in the book to pull some cards and then let a question come to your mind. Or maybe you want to get this deck and have it be an inspiration for a rest and a play and a gentle, self-care. I'm sure you have the material basics down of self-care, of feeding yourself and hygiene and working out. But the more fluid, nurturing kind of mothering, you've got the king self-care. Do you have the queen self-care? Do you let yourself cry? Do you let yourself dream? Do you let yourself fuck up and love yourself anyway? That kind of thing. So that's one of the decks we're going to use. This is the Angels of Atlantis Oracle card deck by Stuart Pearce. This was my first Oracle card deck because it was the cheapest. But I like it a lot. Oh, beginnings. Yes, it was my beginning with Oracle. So I like to pull this one and try and kind of treat it as like what angel or what energy, what divine energy, what support is with you at that time or in like specific to that card. So that's a deck we'll be using. These are my crayon cards. I sat down and I wrote different words in crayon on old flashcards. I have been an adult student a couple times and used flashcards, and then I have all these flashcards left over because I really overestimated how many I would need. And yeah, I wanted more Oracle decks. I didn't have them, so I drew them out. There was originally a kind of method to the different colors. I did yellow as more like childhood themes or perspective, and red was more like survival and resilience and thriving, like getting through stuff. And then blue and green, I don't remember, like there wasn't a specific theme, but like I did blue all in kind of one tone of voice, and I did green in all kind of one tone of voice. And I don't really follow that that compartmentalization now. just the card is the card is the card. However, in one of the other decks I have, there is a yellow, blue, red, green color scheme. And so I have kind of adopted that color scheme and compartmentalization into these just because they end up lining up, so why not? So that's a deck we'll use. So the Oracle deck we're going to use that has the color scheme is the Prairie Majesty Oracle by Kara Simmons. And we've got yellow cards, green cards, blue cards, and pink cards. So I like to match that up with those. The yellow cards are claim cards. No, the yellow cards are do cards. It's an action card, something to do. The green cards are claim cards, some kind of authority, some sovereignty to claim. The pink cards are knowing cards, something to absorb, you know. And the blue cards are feeling cards, and you're meant to look at all those with as little judgment as possible. I don't always deal with reversals with an oracle card. If I hesitate with it, it's just the card that it is. If immediately an interpretation flows from it being reverse, then I go with it. But I don't, if I'm like, oh, I don't really know, I don't try and force a reverse meaning out of it. So I try not to see the cards as I'm shuffling them, but I'm going to bring these up because if I was doing my own reading, I would be like, oh, that's notable. So the two things that are facing each other on the split, because I wanted to shuffle them upside down because the edges are bending, was two cards that say be and liberate. So how can I know myself as absolute and what reminds me I'm free? So being is like bison are super powerful, but for the most part you just see them chewing cud. How can you know that you've got what you got and you've got yourself, but let yourself just chew cud in the meantime, and like when it's time to act, you know you'll act. And then the liberate card, how could I know myself as free? I'll let you chew on that. And then just on the bottom that didn't get picked up was take over, digest, and dabble. So take over as a claim. Is it time to reclaim and reinvent the structures in my life? This card talks about this black-footed ferret comes after the groundhog, which is a different card, which is more active, and they're digging the tunnels, and then this guy moves in and takes them as his own. And this is like, there's structures and like things we're all used to, and you can move in at any time and be like, I understand that, but it doesn't work for me, so I'm going to readopt it and make it work for me. So we're going to let just being take over and not needing to prove that you're powerful all the time. As we digest, what am I cleaning up and converting? As you digest your emotions without judgment, as you give this space to like feel and process without even needing to analyze it, without even needing to define and analyzing and name every emotion and everyone that ever wronged you and why you are the way you are. Like let that run in the background while you think about something or while you play something or while you learn something, right? You don't have to itemize it. And then dabble, this is like what would help me feel safe in opening up. So this is talking about the mallard goes underwater and he sucks in all this water, and the food he eats or whatever comes through a special filter, so he's not just like getting all this trash. And it's like, what filters could you put up, or what permissions could you give yourself to like start something and leave something so that you could dabble more? So it wasn't like, I'm committed, I'm going to do this, or like, no, I can't try that because what if I don't like it? It's like, well, what would give you a chance to like dabble and stuff? And having these come out make me think that it's not going to be your normal trajectory that you're used to of like, I'm going to start something, I'm going to master it, it's going to be great. There's going to be more of an ebb and flow of it. It's going to come in waves, and it's going to be like you're dabbling with the themes that we already talked about. So anyway, those are some flyers or some jumpers from that deck that we'll consider. And then my final deck is the Green Witch's Oracle by Erin Murphy Hiscock. Working with this deck, I have realize that she prefers to be a clarifier. She prefers not to be out in the spread and interpreted regularly with the card, probably because I misinterpret. And so I've hit frustrations too many times to realize that no, this is like a one or two cards at the end as flavor text, or like to just add some nuance to it, to add a little bit of context. So we'll see if that's how we do things today. Usually what I do is I'm shuffling my tarot deck, and then I put everything out. And like, is that going to... Good. And when I turn generally like this, and so I wanted this to be the right orientation when I turned it back. And then I'll start with various cards, depending on what kind of message I think there wants to be. So you seem like you're in some distress, and you want some support, and you're dealing with nihilism, and you're very developed, and you're looking for direction. So the first card I'm going to pull are angel cards to see like who's with us. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of like be ready to pull, and I'll be looking like, I'll look here, and then I'll look here, and then I'll look here. And if I am pulling a card, or if I am lingering on one of these with my eyes, I'll think maybe it wants a card. And I'll just kind of flow with it and see who wants to come out where. And if there's lots that are coming out all in once, then it's like, okay, thank you, angels. Like, thank you for being with me. Thank you for, like, fully supported by the angels here, which is helping me support the idea that that fortune card is like, this is part of your path. This is aligned. Stay the course. You're going to be okay. I'm going to one of these, and crossed by, foundation, recent past, feeling should, what you're actually going to do, here you are, what you got to do, the key, which is going to bring you to, and this one. Okay, it's not usually two, but okay. And then we're going to do rest, because messages of rest, I guess, are prominent. Because usually this is such a big card, I usually put it at the very end as like in the final message of rest. Because I'm into rest. I'm on it. I feel like you're not on it. So now we're going to add some rest cards. Okay, you're crossed by something there. And what you got to do, and what you got to do, and what you got to do, and what you got to do. Okay, rest is a big theme. And body sovereignty. Okay. And then we'll see if any of these girls want to come out. No. Maybe we won't pull any of these at all, but we'll see. I might get to a point where I'm like, well, this could go this way or that way, so what is it the way that you want me to go? And then I'll pull a card. Or right at the end, if we haven't pulled any and we're doing the oracle spread, I might pull one or two to add some symmetry and see what final carrying, natural world, witchcraft, that's what this deck is, messages may want to come through. Okay? So this is how I do my Celtic crosses. I don't see the whole spread, and then I do it one by one with the oracle cards. So here I am, or here you are, at your limit, but very supported, have developed a lot materially, at the beginning of a new cycle. Meditation, we're in a still spot, or we're seeking stillness, and there's like a level, there's a level of mastery in that as well. Astro, rest makes me hopeful, open, and tender. I will snatch rest today. Oh, and oh shit, the B card that came out. So how can I know myself as absolute? How can I trust that when it's time to hustle, I'll hustle, but until then I am safe because I've developed everything already to just sit and chew my cud. Are you into astrology? Maybe you're having like a certain astrological alignment that speaks specifically to like a nihilistic experience, or like hitting a wall, or being disillusioned, or having fear. And so rest and being make me hopeful, open, and tender. I will snatch rest today. And you're being crossed by, so you're in this position where you could rest, where you could just be. right? You could let the stars align because you've got your shit in control, right? You have all your ducks in a row. You've got the receipts. You've built it up. Now let it flow. You have the opportunity to rest. But what you're crossed by, oh, I turned it the wrong way. Of course I did. What you're crossed by is wanting to be productive, wanting to serve, wanting to build something, and retreat. Like, do you have to retreat right now? You find yourself retreating. Do you know how to retreat? Do you know how to have downtime? Redo. Perfectionism is not human. To be human is to rest. I will open my heart to rest. And take, what the fuck? And take over, okay? You're crossed by the idea that the next step, the next thing to do doesn't look like anything because you're going to develop the work, you're going to develop some mastery in retreating, in allowing redos, in dropping perfectionism and resting, and allowing that to take over. So that's uncomfortable because it's not very buildy. It's not very progression. No one can give you an award or be like, wow, you did that, because it's going to look like you're doing nothing because you're resting. We're reading this one. The attempt to attempt perfection is to donate your spirit to the hands of a toxic culture. Perfectionism drives us to unnecessary and unsustainable ways of living. Grind culture holds perfectionism as a badge of honor in a system far from perfect. Your work is to open your heart to rest and be more human with each slow movement. Okay? That's what you're crossed by. It's you don't know how to rest. You don't know how to take a day off. You know how to retreat. You don't know how to be like back to the drawing board unless there's an accomplishment to it. And like how do you get an A in resting, which is both normal to want to achieve and possible to do, right? So here you are in your foundation, which is supported by the angels and has no other context, which means it's just a good, clean, whatever. And we're in Sandalphon with evolution. So let's read that one as there's no other context. Ugh, is my book over here? Can I not read it? I guess we're not reading. I love using the books. I lean on the books. I read like every card. I read the book. Why not? But it's too far away from me. I'm not going to get it. So this is just part of your evolution. This is part of this card talks about like you're in a state of a rapid, accelerated evolution. When we tie that with the Wheel of Fortune, it might also be like hold on to the wheel, like hold on to your hats, right? Things are changing, and this is that mishmash of like how, when, where, why, confusion until the door is opened and the light floods on you, right? You're in a moment of evolution. Sandalphon as well is the angel that was human and then became an angel. And so if there's ever an angel that you're like somebody that understands the human experience and how hard it is, it's this guy. And you're talking about life is hard. Like you have hope and you're on your path and you get it. But also what? Sandalphon. This is, if you work with angels, this is the guy. If you don't, watch some YouTubes about him. In the recent past, which we're no longer in, but we have memories of influencing where we are right now, is we have the King of Cups and beginnings, Shemael beginnings. So you're wanting, maybe in the past, the recent past, you were beginning a new emotional mastery, or you were beginning a new creative endeavor where you were able to channel the creativity that you have in like some constructive, ambitious way. And what you feel like you should be doing right now is you feel like you should be getting to work with communion. Maybe you feel like you should be serving a higher purpose, both in petition and praise of the divine with all of your brethren. This is tying back to that very original, the empty cathedral. Who's in the cathedral? What am I building it for? Is it a cathedral of peace and love and spirituality even? Or like, what is it that I'm building? That comes back to this card of communion, which is, you know, you're very ambitious and you've done a lot and you've created a lot. And so I wonder if you're in your spiritual practice, are you always asking for something? Because this communion card talks about praise and petition. For your skills, for what you can offer, for your purpose here, are you only ever trying to pull something out? Are you only ever petitioning? Do you ever have time for praise? Do you ever sit with your cards or the divine or whatever it is you communicate with and you just say thank you? How often do you say thank you throughout your day? Like how often is it peppered? Is it constant? Or are you only ever asking, and thus internally only ever asking of yourself, pulling stuff from you and never taking a moment to be like, I did that. I am that bitch. You know, I know you're a man, but, you know, gender neutral bitch, you know? Girl with a U, gender neutral. And so what's really happening next is, instead of feeling like you should be this master spiritual communicator and know exactly what's going on and like putting in the work and doing it, what's actually coming next is planetary cycles, another astro thing. If you're into astrology, I'm into astrology. I'll link you to the other channel I have. Saying, I don't know. I will stop worrying about productivity, and that's reverse, and build. So this is the original, well, I can't remember if it's a build or dig, but beavers build. And so this card asks about, yeah, the gophers, the takeover was gophers and the gopher holes. The beaver dam is, what am I integrating? And it's kind of like, what's on hand to build with? What are the tools you have around you? And if all the tools that surround you are confusion and emotions, guess what, Bessie? That's what you've got to work with. Those are the tools. That's the path you're on. So here, the next thing you're going to do is you might crash out. You might begin to communicate with your body. With this being the Gemini card, and with this planetary cycles again from Sandalphon supporting you, and saying, I don't know, and not worrying about productivity, and what are you ready to build? What's at hand? I'm going to share my astrology story with you right now. I wanted to get into astrology because I wanted something new and convoluted to learn that would take up a lot of time and require my brain power. And I didn't really want to learn about people anymore because I used to read like science and like nature and archaeology and history articles, and like people suck. So it's all largely depressing if you get under the facts and into the subtext, into like the greater story of what they're telling. And so I wanted something that if someone were to ask me like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'd be like, "Oh, I'm learning astrology." They'd be like, "What?" And it would kind of turn them off from like wanting to interrogate me or be like, "Oh my God, that's useful," or "You should do that for me," or whatever. Because my idea at the time was that most people would be like, "What?" and be turned off by the idea that I'm studying that. And you've got this planetary cycles, you have the astro card, and you have this Knight of Swords, which is like Gemini, which is information, sharing information, and Mercury is like an astral, he's like the leader of astrology because he brings it to us kind of thing. And so maybe the next thing you're going to do is you're going to learn some astrology. And that's not going to feel accomplished, especially to non-astrologers, to anybody that you talk to in your workspace or the mental space or even the spiritual space sometimes. You're going to waste time on that. It's not going to be wasteful. That's what I tried to do. I was like, I'm trying to waste time on this because on something not important. And then I got into it and I was like, oh shit, it's very important. Wouldn't you know? And so maybe that's what you're going to do next. You're going to learn or get into or study your astrology and the planetary alignments that are affecting you right now and find some solace in that. Huh? Maybe? Okay, here you are at your action, at your trying to do something. Romance, you're trying to not only romanticize your life, but this card talks about take your ideas of romance and toss them because like a greater like romanticization, whatever that means for you, is coming in. And this one is there are infinite ways to liberation. Expand, rest now. So this tells me Page of Swords, learning new ways to think, the romance, and there are infinite ways to liberation, expand and rest now, is that you are going to be given a new idea about how glitteringly romantic and expansive and liberated your life can feel, how calm your mind can be, how assured of your path you can feel. You don't even, your current idea of like how enchanting that can look or feel is like dime store, dollar store romance, where the divine and Zafkiel are bringing, and rest, if you can rest into it, if you can learn from your body, a completely different way to look at your life and look at it with like those rose-colored glasses and have the romanticization available for you to learn if you rest. And your rest may look totally different than my rest. That's what you're here to learn. What is restful for you, particularly for your mind? The reaction to that is you got to feel it. You got to friendship, changing friendship. This talks about like your ideas of friendship again are going to be kiboshed, and you're going to have such new experiences of connection and camaraderie that you didn't even think was possible. You didn't even think was on the table or available for you. And you're going to learn that I will sit down and daydream and swim am I flowing through my metamorphosis with the leopard frog. So this is a flowing card. These girls are on the shore, like on the ocean waves. This is a flowing card, and I will sit down and daydream, sitting, swimming. Okay? You're going to try and have a new romanticization, a new fall in love with your life again, fall in love with your mind, fall in love with your path. And with the beginner mindset, fall in love with being a beginner, with not knowing, with trying new things, with being curious, with being surprised, with learning again, instead of developing and mastering, with learning again. Well, then you've got to make a friendship. You've got to have a friendship, and it's going to be a whole new level of connection with yourself, with the nurturing parts of yourself that you didn't think you could be friends with. You're going to develop a friendship with feeling fully. You're going to swim through it and know that swimming through those feelings non-judgmentally is you flowing through the metamorphosis of your purpose and your path. And that by sitting down and daydream, just by sitting down and daydreaming, you don't have to plan the emotions, you don't have to get the tissues ready, you don't have to have a teddy ready, you don't have to, I often ask my chakras to like anything I don't need to know. I don't want to dream, I don't want to imagine, I don't want to have the thought unless I need to have it. Otherwise, let it go in the deep brain, let it go into the energetic body, let it work in the meantime, and I agree to eat and nap and do whatever needs to like support that deep inner space work. And I don't need to like work, I don't need to do it. And so what you've got to do this, if you have to sit down and daydream, you have to check out and let it work within you. Yeah? So I think it's going to be uncomfortable for you. But again, what I said like much earlier in a different part of the spread, I think that that's part of your path so that you, as a man that's proud of himself, can like learn this and then be that peer among men and amongst youth, amongst males, to be like, no, like this is the way. That's my personal opinion on how this is going. Okay. Now we're going to skip to card 10 to see if all of this shit is something you actually want or if it's like Tower and 5 of Pentacles and Doom and 3 of Swords. And so we're going to see if this is actually something you want to go through. And what you can get, all of this, if you treat this 9 card correctly, is you can get to reforming your emotional stability, accepting the offer, accepting the opportunity, accepting the nutrients, trust, developing trust, when and cuddles came out, and let rest be a delicious possibility. So you can get to the point where rest is a delicious possibility to you when cuddles is something you can trust in building up your emotional stability and not something you have to be worried of or something that like you're too strong and like too secure, too manly to let in. You're going to trust your emotional side, you're going to trust your soft side, you're going to trust rest. And you can get there if you let your body lead, not your mind. You're nothing forced, nothing restrained. Your passenger princess. Dreams. Okay, if you can get into the dream space, keep trying. So you might, you might be really good and then you get into a situation and then you're tired and you're resentful and you're nihilistic, and that's going to be a note that you're going to reflect on and be like, oh yeah. And when you're building a new habit, when you're trying something new, first of all, you recognize, I don't know if I like how I feel when I do that. And then you start to have that thought often enough to be like, I don't like how I feel when I do that. And then you're going to have the experience where you're not doing it and then you slip up or you relapse or whatever and you do it. And that's just part of the confirmation to be like, oh no, I do feel like shit. Oh no, I like, whatever it is. So you're going to keep trying to enter the dream space, and you're going to keep trying to enter the dream space and not try and push it somewhere. So this is something really hard for productive people, is that as soon as you have a daydream, oh, I'll do it. As soon as you have a creative idea, oh, I do it. And so the deeper, bigger, wilder dreams can't come out because you won't let just the little stuff that's coming out beforehand fly by. And so you need to dedicate a dream space and or dedicate all this deeper work to the dream space and agree that you're going to sleep. You're going to sleep through it all. You're going to sleep through all of the next stuff. If your astrology is in that you are in a progressed new moon phase, you are going to sleep. Okay? And then when you get a dream and you get an inspiration and you push it and it doesn't work and it's frustrating or you're let down or you're embarrassed, you're just going to keep trying. That is a confirmation that you weren't meant to act on that dream, you were meant to dream it. You're meant to dream it, not do it. And then if you find yourself doing it without the pushing, without the resisting, if you actually have the commentary of like, oh, I guess I'm doing this now. If you just find yourself as the passenger princess doing it, that's how you know it's aligned. I do nothing alone. My whole life is a collaboration. So this card says, unravel from toxic individualism. Ask yourself, what does it serve me to navigate life by myself, navigate with the Knight? The lie of individualism keeps us separated, isolated, exhausted, and disconnected. Without collaborating in rest and care, we will not make it. We need one another in order to make it. Be curious about the ways you could connect, care, and collaborate with others while on your rest journey. Another card talks about like communal rest. So like, can you invite a friend over and then midway through the hangout when everyone's like, I'm kind of tired, can you guys have a nap? Everybody takes a different couch and you just have a little nap together, right? Little things like that. Find people to help you on your rest journey. Keep trying. Keep entering the dream space. And if you've been hyper individualistic, work on allowing your body to bring you into more communal spaces that you can currently only dream about. Like, you have no idea the life that awaits you, the emotional stability that awaits you, the robustness, the enchantment, the openness. You have no idea what awaits you on the other side of trusting in the stability you have built, trusting that you're not going to let yourself fail, trusting that you don't always have to be productive, and that on the other side of these big feelings and these big shifts and this unknowing is like a life you don't even think is possible right now, in like emotional robustness and connection. That's how I would do that reading with all of those cards. And then we would do whatever. I would skip the wheel because I don't like it. I would skip past, present, future because I don't like it. I would immediately move into the path of Hermes, which is my favorite Celtic cross permutation. And then we would do the whole person summary, and then we would do the Fool's journey. And then I would put these cards away because we have now looked through the tarot cards like 6 times and gotten like everything we can get out of the tarot cards. And just as parting messages from the oracle team, from the spirit team, from that other level that you're using, if you use oracle cards, what are the messages? So again, I will turn this. Oh, I moved her. I was like, where's the tarot card? How do I know I'm in the proper alignment? I'm just going to turn that like that. And then I usually, there's so many angel cards because angels are really supporting you at this time, is how I would personally read that. And then I'll also turn them generally, unless I think it's really impactful that they were reverse. And if there's lots like this, I'll put them out like group by group. And if there aren't that many, like if 5 came out in the total spread, like 2 of these and 1 of those and 1 of those and 1 of those, then they'll all come out together. But these are lots of angels. And then I can like arrange them by who's saying what, who's doing what, which angel is present. So I'm just gonna, there's a lot of cards out, so I'm just gonna organize them all, and I'm gonna keep everybody in the alignment they can, especially for the crayon cards, which are like more directional. Not that I interpret them super directionally. And then we've got these spaces right here, so I am going to draw 2 of those, but I'm just going to arrange everybody first. So we've got Raphael, Jophiel, Raziel, Sandalphon, Shamael, Raziel, Uriel, Zafkiel. So we have 2 Raziels, 2 Uriels, 2 Sandalphons, a Zafkiel, a Shamael, a Jophiel, and a Raphael. So we will rearrange them like this. And then we'll say, I want to say Sandalphon is the center here because you're having a hard time with the lived experience with humanity, with the world, and Sandalphon was a person, so if you need to lean on anybody, it's that guy. We'll have Uriel supporting either side, who's like the friend, and Raziel, who is going to be kind of your center. And then we'll do those for context after. So we have Raphael bringing you communion, and reminding you that communion is not just about petition, but also about praise, and also communal. It's about going on this pilgrimage to Mecca. And so you're with all your brothers and sisters of the faith, communally having a communion. So it's multiple layers, and that ties into that rest card we had about not resting alone. finding a space, finding a group, finding a men's support group, or going into like group therapy. Those can all be ways to enter into like an emotional space, or like facing your emotions without having to do it alone, and without, I don't know, feeling the pressure of being all alone with it. Jofiel is saying meditation, silence, and stillness is how you're going to get a lot of the information you need right now. Shemael says there's new beginnings. There's a sun on this card on the beach and a person walking like along the beach. New cycles, new beginnings, like the sun is rising for you. And Zafgil coming with romance. So also if you are like looking for a partner, or if you're in partnership, there may also be like a disillusionment there of like, is this what love is? Is this what relationships are for? And then like trust that if you can let that go, or if you can be still in it, if you can commune, something greater that you don't even know how to conceptualize is coming in. Sandalphon centrally has planetary cycles and evolution. So I would say that there are some kind of planetary cycles at play that are part of this evolution that you're in right now. And then Uriel is supporting with trust and friendship. So you're maybe building a friendship with personal self-trust. You're maybe going to build a friendship and a trust with the movements of the divine, like with astrology or with angels or with your own intuition, again with the tarot deck. And then Raziel is wanting us to retreat away from the busyness and come into the dream space more. Not only allowing yourself to dream about what do you want and to daydream and like to conceptualize, but to literally enter into the dream space and to rely, like to allow the dream space to be a place where a lot of work is happening, where a lot of emotional work, spiritual work, magical work, higher self work, like spirit team work. Trust that it happens in the dream space, whether you remember your dreams or not, whether you want that to come through or not. You got to retreat and you've done all this work acting out into the world. Retreat into stillness, trust in the romanticization of the new beginnings, and like juice it up if you want to. Go like play big, go big or go home. Open up your horizons so that when the universe brings in what's coming, it even surprises those expanded horizons, those expanded expectations of how good it's going to be. Go into the dream space to let, you've acted a lot, to let it act upon you, and build a friendship with trust. Build a friendship with communion, and a trust in like, you can feel that you can feel that spark for your life again. You can feel that romantic, like turned on by your life. It can come in. And so to support, sorry, that was me hitting my tripod, my telescoping tripod. So to support, we're going to look at, we've got the moon, which is phases, cycles, intuition, another cycles. The moon is the closest astrological body, and it represents the body, the soft body, emotions, and motherhood. So this is another one. It's not upright, so I wouldn't usually read that any kind of way, except with the Queen of Cups also being reversed. Like you've got to let the flow. You've done all of the solar stuff, the ambition, the work, and now the other balance of that is, the wave has to recede, which is going to feel like you're losing your grip. And what are you doing? But it's just part of the cycle. It's just part of the ebb and flow. And then we have another water card called the rain card, which is cleansing, purification, and hydration. This card talks about water is a variable force. So it's nutritive and we need it to live, but it can also flash flood and wash something away. And it can also slowly erode foundations. So this card will ask, is there something being eroded right now that you're just letting go out of control? And that's usually how I read it. If it's reverse, like this water's coming down, like you're losing control of something and it's washing something away. Upright, it's a much more gentle cleansing card. And so I would think that you feel like you're in the thick of it, but you have all this angel support. You're in the cycle. You're on your path. Like let it wash over you is kind of what I'm getting. And also let things, if something's trying to flow away, let it go. Let it go. You're on a new path, right? So that's the angels that are with you. And then we can pull our 4. Oh, we've got one of each. So something to do, something to claim, something to know, something to feel. And then we'll see what's going on here. We've got when, cuddles, keep trying. These are green. Redo, say I don't know, and astro. And then finally our rest cards, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let rest be a delicious possibility. I do nothing alone. I will sit down and daydream. I will stop worrying about my productivity. There are infinite ways to liberation. Perfectionism is not human, and rest makes me hopeful. All right, so the predominant energy is the rest energy. You got to learn how to rest. You got to give it space. You got to understand that rest is your human right and an expression of and a gift of your divinity, and that you deserve rest, and that rest is the way. You may find that by resting, you become more productive, and that is absolutely not the fucking point, and you're abusing it if that's what you're using it for. It just so happens, coincidentally, that if you're rested, you will be more productive, you'll be more energized, you'll be more focused, you'll be able to get up and do things that when you were pushing yourself, you couldn't even do a tenth of it. But that is not why you're resting. So let me make that clear, okay? You're resting because you're supposed to be resting, and you have a rest debt that you now owe. That's what I have learned from this. So we're going to go through the rest cards and then see what context we get from that. Rest makes me hopeful, open, and tender. I will snatch rest today. You seem hopeful in your post, but not so open and tender. So maybe you should snatch some rest at any time. I hope you lay down in a cozy blanket for this whole reading. I hope that's what's happening. And you're not pacing and chewing your nails, but you do you. Perfectionism is not human. To be human is to rest. I will open my heart to rest. I will stop worrying about productivity. I do nothing alone. My whole life is a collaboration. Let rest be a delicious possibility. I will sit down and daydream. There are infinite ways to liberation. Expand. Rest now. The thing that came up when I said this collaboration card is also you do nothing alone. Your body was there the whole time. Are you collaborating with your body, or are you pushing it around and telling it what to do and demanding things from it, right? Are you petitioning and praising, or only petitioning? In our cards, we have do, you're going to build. What are you integrating? What are the tools at hand? What can you build with it? You're just going to get to work. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's kind of a mishmash of a structure anyway. Just get to it. What else are we doing? We're saying I don't know, and we're cuddling. Say I don't know is the most overpowered spiritual tool you can do. Okay? I don't know. You're gonna pick something up and you're gonna build something with it, and you're just gonna go from there, and hopefully what you're picking up are soft things to cuddle with. You're gonna build a cuddle space, and you're gonna say, I don't know. I don't know where this is going. I don't know what the point is, but I'm gonna do it. You're gonna take over. You're gonna claim and take over, like the black-footed ferret, that it's time to reclaim and reinvent the structures of your life. So you're going to keep trying, and you're going to redo, especially when you don't know and you need cuddles, right? Or this keep trying and redo is going to bring you back into now it's time for cuddles. When you're really in the when do I act? When do I do? When is it changing? Well, it's time to say I don't know and build a nice cozy nest space for yourself. Something to know is that you can know yourself as absolute, and like the bison you can be. You can trust that if a predator comes near, you're going to hoof kick them into oblivion. If an annoying tourist comes near, you're going to gore them or launch them into a tree. And if it's time to run or move or be a powerful bison, you know you have that power. And all the other times you're going to be, and you're going to chew your cud, and you're going to enjoy the pasture life of being a giant animal that has a lot of authority and doesn't get pushed around. So you're going to be. There are no pink cards here, so there's nothing more from the crayon card team for you to know. And then what are we going to feel? We're going to feel this fluid swim space. We're going to feel into the astrology if that's interesting to you. You're going to flow through the metamorphosis. You're going to understand that all of this rest and the retreating and the dreams and the new beginnings and the communion with the divine, with your brethren, with yourself, with your body. You're going to swim through all that, not a hard doing. And what are we doing? We're cuddling and saying, I don't know. So it's not a hard doing. There's not a lot of ambition. There's not a lot of authority and taking and acting in the world. You're going to flow. You're going to swim. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be uncomfortable for you, I bet. You're going to slowly develop the confidence that you do have the power and you don't always have to be exercising it to know that you hold that power. You're going to let these rest structures overtake some of the other structures of your life. You're going to integrate them. You're going to take some old structures that used to work and you're going to be like, that doesn't work anymore. And you're going to build like cuddle nooks and nest crannies and rest spaces into them instead. And all of that is part of your metamorphosis. All of that is part of the flow of change and progression that you're currently in. It's not a stagnation. It's not a stop. It's not a failure. It's not being lost. It's not being confused. It's saying you don't know. And what do you know? What do you do when you don't know? You cuddle up and you watch a movie. I don't know. You spend some time not doing anything when you don't know. If you don't know what to do, it's not time to do anything. That's my mantra. Okay, I have no idea how long this is because I had to start and stop a bunch of times, but that's it, team. Okay, thank you. Goodbye. Okay, thanks for watching. That was my treatment of the Celtic cross. That's how I permutate or rearrange all of the cards and get multiple spreads out of it. And that is my approach. You just saw a way too long explanation of my approach to the cards, the court cards, the placements of a spread. The next few slides and this slide are about ways to support me if you're interested. I have a little bit of like a Sarah McLachlan Arms of the Angels sob story that follows this. If you're wishing to support, I am open to receiving support. Particular to OP, the Reddit user that let me do this video. I mean, if you want to tip me, if you found it resonated, I'm open, I'm receiving. But absolutely, there is no expectation. I'm not putting this little blurb here so that you feel the pressure to pay me. That was an offer that I would do the reading. And I did it for my own selfish purposes, to my own ends, to have a reading on YouTube, because I for sure was not getting around to putting my own on there. So I'm not putting this up because I'm trying to get anybody's money, but if anybody is like, I wonder if I could help that girl, you could. And it would be so appreciated if you would. Okay, otherwise, check out now, and I'll see you again. And if you stay tuned, thank you so much. So this is my little boy, and truth be told, I am in a game of chicken with the universe. I quit working at the end of September 2025. I couldn't do it anymore, and I can't go back. I feel like this is my work. Maybe not necessarily the YouTube empire, but the work of sharing, tarot, astrology, the things that have kept me alive. Not that I think I'm some guru, but the things that have kept me alive have been so helpful that I want to share it with the world. And I cannot do both. I cannot, in a material way support myself and do this work. I can support myself in taking care of myself and my house and my kitchen, and I don't need someone to come in and take care of me. But that meta layer of finding those resources, sourcing those resources on my own, and then taking care of myself on my own, and then trying to share this is just not possible. So what I'm asking you for is your patronage. Here are some blurbs from johncanningco.com about the benefits of patronage, which are varied and personal. But the idea of patronage exists because people with resources and or appreciation for art or whatever they're patronizing want it in the world and understand that they have the resources to give to support it, and they don't necessarily have the skill or desire or motivation to create it, but it should belong in the world. And so I'm saying, if you want artists, if you want mystics, if you want hermits to be able to share what they're doing and have that be their work instead of the work of survival, we are all here ready, willing, and able. Please support us. I am a Renaissance man, and if you read the book Who Cooked the Last Supper, it's the idea of like Renaissance men, people that get to do a lot of things, they're supported, right? Usually by women in thankless positions. But I am a Renaissance man, and I can't do every facet of the mundane life if I'm also going to do all this esoteric stuff. And I'm in a game of chicken with the universe. I am just doing the esoteric stuff. So if you would like the personal benefits of patronage, to know that you are helping me literally with my survival, like you're taking the risk of survival off of my plate. A little bit of support over a small, window of time, a little bit of support over a chapter of my life, a lot of bit of support. If you're interested, I'm open. Literally anything, literally everything is so, so, so helpful. You would not only be helping me and then thus helping to share art and like keeping another weird hermit alive in the world, but you would be sharing hope, not just the messages of hope that I'm able to share, but the beacon of light and hope that my whole entire person would become, knowing that I am supported, knowing I can continue in this work, knowing I can put the fear down that I have to leave this work, would be unfathomable and magical. And you could be a part of that. So, this is me begging you, please, for your support. If you are in a mind or a mood to support, the email that you can send tresneffers and also email inquiries if you would like to see a topic treated on YouTube, not about even tarot or astrology, just any topic. You can see if I'm interested or if I know anything about it so I can talk about it. So if you have any inquiries or you would like to send an tresneffer, you can do so at wishthinkerdesign@gmail.com. If you would like to send a tip or donation, or there's Bibles, readings, PDFs available from my Buy Me a Coffee at Wishthinker. Tips and donations can also be sent through PayPal at Hermitarius. And I do have a Patreon at Hermitarius. There aren't any extra things or perks that people can get in the tiers. I don't know what you want, and I don't want to spend any energy trying to hustle for unknown things. If you become a patron, then you are in the door to request what you would like from me, and that conversation can open. So if you are interested in becoming like a true patron and just supporting an artist and a hermit and an esoteric, I'm here and I'm open. Anyway, thank you very much for your patience. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your support, even your energetic support, and still being here for this message, watching the videos, like, subscribes, whatever. And thank you for your patronage. Okay, take care.